22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Welcome, 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 welcome. People Before Politics, Black Westchester Magazine, People Before Politics show. And I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is a Friday edition, and we're going to discuss the recent statements of Governor Cuomo regarding police corruption, city corruption in the city of Mount Vernon. For all y'all don't know, last week we had George Joseph, an investigative journalist for the Gothamist, and he has been putting out numerous tapes that was given to him by Westchester's own Serpico, of Mount Vernon Officer Bovell. And today, and then last week, we also heard the governor was questioned on the tapes in Mount Vernon, and he did a horrible political tap dance around the issue of police corruption in the time of George Floyd. So while everybody's marching and they're rallying throughout the United States and talking about police reform, when the governor was given the hard question on what was he doing about these tapes, and if people haven't heard the tapes, I suggest you go on the Gothamist. And the investigative journalist is George Joseph, and listen to your tapes yourself. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the tapes yourself. So today, in response to the governor's tap dance, we have as our guest Joseph Murray, who is the legal counsel for Officer Bovell. Like I said, he's Westchester's own Serpico. And to do what he did, much respect to Officer Bovell. And we also have Brother Jesse Van Lew, who is founder of Save Mount Vernon, who has been a brother who has been stepping up, addressing a lot of the issues. I wasn't able to download the file that I have for what Governor Cuomo said, unfortunately, was too big. But to recap what the governor said, if the listeners haven't heard what the governor said, please go to his press conference, and when we download this video, we will add what the governor stated, so people that will watch this moving forward will know what he said. So So let's start off with you, Joe.
Congregations and
somebody, maybe I could play it. You know what?
I'm gonna see if I could grab it.
Yeah, I could actually grab it, but I'm not sure if people will be able to hear it. Let me see if I can. Can everybody hear this?
What about Mount Vernon Police Department? What about the applications?
Can y'all guys hear this?
When you say the state,
Yeah, I get it.
Police departments, why would people have confidence in the state regulating police departments? Where do you get that we regulate or have oversight over police departments? The state attorney general has investigatory authority. I don't direct her to investigate. She has legal authority by the executive order. I issued an executive order that gives her that authority.
Calls for you to direct her office to investigate the Mount Vernon Police Department. I'm curious
For what?
Prevent police brutality and corruption that's been reported on extensively based on whistleblower.
Yeah, I don't know why the attorney general is not investigating. I don't know why the Westchester district attorney is not investigating. I don't know why the Eastern District U.S. attorney is not investigating. I don't know why the Southern District U.S. attorney is not investigating. Those are all investigatory agencies with the authority to do an investigation. Maybe they know something we don't know, but I don't know because it's not under my jurisdiction.
Okay, that's yo. I hope everybody heard that, right? So we're gonna start off with you, Joe. Your response to, first of all, full disclosure, before we start with you. I've written the governor on the last 3 years numerous times about issues in Mount Vernon Police Department. And I CC'd the Attorney General and even the new Attorney General. So for him to say, and for him to live in Westchester County and wake up every morning, and you can't and you can't tell me he doesn't turn on News 12, or there's not people, his assistants and those letting them know what's going on within Westchester County, for him to act like he really doesn't know what's going on. I mean, that's totally disrespect. So I just wanted to make that clear for people to know. I wrote him myself numerous times. So maybe his aides or the people that handle his mail, and I wrote it from Black, and I know other people have written him from organizations, and George Joseph's report even showed, even the Legal Aid Society has written the governor. So from a legal standpoint, Joe, is he missing the mark? Is he totally trying to bamboozle the people?
Absolutely. I gotta be honest with you. It's hard for me to remain professional when talking about Andrew Cuomo. I just don't think very highly of him at all. And in full disclosure, he sued me when I was a police officer and he was in private practice. And I never liked him from the beginning. The case was dismissed. It was a ridiculous case. And I sued him on behalf of a strip club in regards to this pandemic. So we have this back and forth anyway.
Right.
But clearly here, he's the chief executive officer of New York State, the chief executive. He has the power constitutionally and also statutorily, the attorney general. The attorney general, let me just read for you just real brief. Section 8 of its executive orders, executive law, section 63, subdivision 8. Whenever in his judgment the public interest requires it, the attorney general may, with the approval of the governor and when directed by the governor, shall inquire into matters concerning the public peace, public safety, and public justice. You can't get any more clearer. This is the obligation of our chief executive officer, and our attorney general. Now, does that mean they get involved in every case? No, absolutely not. New York is a huge jurisdiction for one office to handle. Mm-hmm. We have our borough-wide or county-wide district attorney's offices who generally do a great job. But as George Joseph reported in this instance, there's a complete breakdown and failure with Anthony Scarpino and the Westchester County District Attorney's Office. So much so, he's lied about what we brought to him, the evidence we brought to him, the significance of it. He downplayed it at one point and called it essentially hearsay on top of hearsay, amounting to rumors. Rumors. Now, you've heard what's been reported. You haven't heard all of it. Exactly. Those are rumors. Damon, you've been in law enforcement 30 years. Tell me if what you found on those stories sound like rumors.
No, it sounds like there's a problem, and that, well, Scarpino failed the people out Mount Vernon, and he failed his own what he has pledged to do as a district attorney. And I think that's why the people in Westchester County this past primary chose Mimi Roca. Because it was a big mess in Mount Vernon, and I went to Scarpino myself on issues, and he did absolutely nothing. So it's the people saw it, and the people spoke on primary day. So I think that's what we could say about that. But Joe, has anybody reached out to you because the governor said, how do we know there's not an investigation? I would think that they will reach out to the complainant first before they do anything else.
You're so right. It's so logical. That's the common sense way to look at this. After, I believe it was the second story that George Joseph put out with substantial parts of the recordings, I was contacted by the chief assistant of the U.S. Attorney's Office asking me if I can provide them with these recordings. That angered me so much more about Scarpino, because if you remember, and you've been following this, Black Westchester has done a great job following this. Anthony Scarpino at some point said the FBI looked at this and found nothing prosecutable. Well, what did they look at? If They're now asking me for copies of the recordings, obviously they've never heard them, and you've withheld them. And I also want to point out that Commissioner Scott asked for those recordings, and he refused to give the recordings to Commissioner Scott. Something very dirty and devious is going on here. I don't know what it is exactly, but in my professional opinion, he's an embarrassment to law enforcement. His integrity and ethics are in the tank. And I think it's appropriate at this point with this investigation for the governor to either remove him, or even I was going to apply for the chief administrative judge, because under County Law 701, whenever a district attorney is unable to prosecute or investigate a case, whether by conflict of interest or other disqualifying matter, the chief judge can appoint a special district attorney. And it commonly happens in cases of conflict. And one I happen to be a part of, I represented the young woman charged with extorting $400,000 from Elliot Spitzer. Elliot Spitzer, this case was originally started as a domestic violence case with this young lady. And it was handled in Manhattan by the Manhattan DA's office. However, Cy Vance and Elliot Spitzer had a relationship, so Cy Vance said, I can't handle this case. And under that county law, the chief judge appointed the Bronx district attorney to come in and handle that case. That's what I think needs to happen here, because he has screwed up this investigation so bad. He's lied about it. He's lied about or misrepresented the evidence. He's apparently lied about this FBI investigation because there's no reason they would be asking me for these recordings if they had them. So I think it's horrendous what they did. This is exactly what that we talked to about in the beginning. The governor, you're the chief executive.
Exactly.
When you see this misconduct taking place, it's incumbent upon you by constitutional mandate. You must see to it that the laws of New York State are being properly enforced. And you have an attorney general well equipped to handle this type of investigation. Why aren't you acting? What's going on here? That's the question I have.
Jesse, brother Jesse, man, you know,
Yes.
you have been out on the forefront, not only for police accountability, but for police activity and actually solving these unsolved murders in Mount Vernon, and just speaking about how you desire and many other residents of Mount Vernon desire how their community should be policed. When you hear what Brother Joseph is saying about the responsibility, the legal responsibility, as a resident, how do you feel, bro? How do you feel about it?
It's disturbing. It's, you know, like I said, I've been out there, you've been out there, and for the inaction from above, from City Hall, from AG, from Cuomo, it's disheartening. It makes me want to, bang my head on the wall and ask me what's going on. You know, what are we doing? How far do I go? What do I keep saying? Who do I reach out to next? People don't know. I reached out to the Letitia James. I'm letting you know right now. I have no response back. I understand y'all want to reach out to Cuomo. I don't know what is he doing. I think the questions caught him off guard, but I think he knew about it. If you look at his facial expressions, he didn't like the questions that was coming at him. Definitely. He didn't like that. I was back his head, rolling his eyes, and like, why are you asking me this now? But I'm saying it's not going to stop. But where do we go from here? Mount Vernon been having a problem with his misconduct and the police corruption. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg that's coming out. If you hear the stories that I know about, trying to get these guys to come forward and speak and not worry about retaliation, it's just tip of the iceberg. So I'm saying, where do we go? I'm not going to stop. You know, not now, but something has to be done. And what's next? I'm asking a question.
If I may, I just want to add one more part of his executive order, 147 of 2015. This is what he enacted to go after investigations of unarmed police deaths by police officers by unarmed people, and just write in the whereas clause at the very first page of it. Whereas the foregoing compels me to conclude that my constitutional obligations provide that in cases where an issue of real or perceived conflict of interest exists, that's Scarpino, and to ensure full confidence in our system of criminal justice, a special prosecutor should be appointed with respect to such incidents. Such appointment of special prosecutor will supersede in all ways the authority and jurisdiction of a county district attorney to manage, interpret, prosecute, or inquire about such incidents. Here it is, Governor. Here it is, your own words. You put pen to paper on this. These are your own words that you signed into an executive order. You have the authority and obligation. There is a clear conflict of interest. We have a district attorney who's withholding evidence. And by the way, Commissioner Scott never heard those recordings until we gave it to him. He's withholding it from the person who's the closest to this investigation, the police commissioner, who wants to root this out and wants to investigate it. He wouldn't give it to him. Mind you, once we did give them to Commissioner Scott, his first move was to have them transcribed. We want transcripts. So once the district attorney found out that he was having him transcribed, he asked Commissioner Scott to give him the transcriptions. What does that tell you about his office? They did nothing. Nothing. We went to them in 2018 2018 with this. They did nothing. It's outrageous. We need the governor to act. We need the attorney general to act. And I say this with very selfish reasons. I'm a retired police officer. I represent a lot of police officers. You let off this show talking about Officer Bovell, the courageous acts that he did that we want all cops to do. He put himself out there like Serpico. What happened to Serpico? He got shot in the face. Shot in the face. My client has a bullseye on his back, and that bullseye was put there by the Mount Vernon Police Department when a sergeant at roll call called him a rat, called him a snitch. He put that bullseye on there. He let the rest of the cops know Bovell is fair game. Go after him. That's outrageous. I have a more personal interest in this for his safety, which is at risk because there are rogue cops in Mount Vernon who are coming under the microscope, who are now worried and panicked about this investigation, and they may retaliate against him. He's back to full duty on patrol. He could be in that situation where he gets shot in the face. It's outrageous. And I thank you for trying to bring awareness to this. It has to stop. We need action. What is it going to take? Officer Bovell getting hurt or injured? We have to do something here.
So they get the tapes, they transcribe it, right? But nobody calls in the officers to interview. I mean, they all come into work. No, why not just call the officers and interview them?
Well, I mean, I ran for district attorney, and I'm telling you, one of the most important things about being a public officer and an office like the district attorney is the integrity of your office. Mm-hmm. The officers who come in here, the evidence they present, there is nothing more important. You know why? Because I'd say this to people don't realize it. The district attorney doesn't get convictions. They don't get the convictions. The people do. The people who sit in that jury booth do. The people who sit there and weigh the evidence, listening to the prosecutor presenting their case, listening to the officer testify. If they don't believe the officer, if they don't have confidence in the district attorney's office, you will not. I, as a defense attorney, I tell them, if you have reasonable doubt about credibility, about the evidence you were presented, it's not a question of you can find him not guilty. You're required to find him not guilty. So it's so important as a prosecutor to maintain the credibility of your office. So getting back to your question, why haven't they done anything? It's important not to taint, I believe, by questioning officers ahead of time. Under Garrity, it's compelled testimony of forcing them to answer. That can't be used in a criminal prosecution. Okay. So if that somehow gets out and is, tainted in any way, I don't want to hurt the ability to prosecute these officers. So I get that. But this DA has no intention on prosecuting anyone, as evidenced by his lack of doing any investigation.
Now, well, okay. So where do we, and I'm going to ask, both of y'all, and I'm going to start with you, Jess. Like, where do we go from here? How do we make this right? Because, if the governor doesn't have a clear answer, and after what Joe has explained, the power of the governor, and I'm going to go back because, I could put up tape after tape after tape where residents, elected officials, pastors have called on the governor to do something in the city over the last 4 years. And Jesse, you could bear witness to that.
Yes.
Right. Over the last 4 years, not just specific into the tapes, but overall. overall to do something. And even after the tapes is like the icing on the cake. You know, he's still acting like he doesn't know what's going on in a city that's predominantly black and struggling. So Jesse, man, you know, where do we go from here, man? If the governor is acting like he don't know what the hell's going on, like, where do we go from here?
Well, we've been putting pressure on him. Over the last couple of weeks, I have a lot of people that kind of reached out to me, want to get on board now. People say, "Oh, we don't want to scream and dance in the street," but I'll do that. But now I got people that wants to join me, and I say the more pressure, the more unnerved that the governor's going to get. I'm going to start again. I have something coming up. I'll let you know about it, Damon.
Okay.
Say about it now. We have something coming up. Hopefully the media come out and cover it. The more pressure, the more media coverage, he's going to have to do something. That's it. Because after I watched his press conference, I came away from that scratching my head like, wow, you know, do you care? You know, there's voters here that voted for you. So I guess we're the drop off in Mount Vernon, like they don't care. They don't care what the hell is going on in Mount Vernon PD. But I do. I have a lot of people that have reached out. Like I said, they're going to jump on board, and we're going to try to put as much pressure, coming up with ideas. What can we do now to make this man get out of his chair and come down here and bring the feds up here and investigate it?
Yeah, I agree. And I got to tell you, that is the way we went about it, because we complained about it to several different officials. We went to the district attorney's office. He did nothing. It wasn't until I contacted George Joseph, who I've worked with in the past, and I really think the world of him. His ethics are unprecedented in this day and age where fake news is so prevalent and media bias. He is so on point. He is so, the integrity of what he's going to put in there after fact checking it. So I just felt so good about bringing him in on this. He did a wonderful job and brought this to light. And I'm telling you, every time that story ran, I got a phone call from Tom Drake at the DA's office. Hey, what's going on? You guys want to come in and talk? They haven't done anything, and it's just so shocking. So I think that the only other thing is like Jesse said, we have to now bring the fire right to their front doorstep and tell them we want justice here. We want action. And I can't stress it enough. My personal involvement. I've known Officer Bovell a number of years now, and I cannot believe that he even is out there on patrol, knowing that he fingered several of these officers. You're only hearing about a couple, several of these officers in criminal conduct. Now, I also want to point out there's a difference between police corruption, police misconduct, and something that is even worse than that is affecting the integrity of the criminal justice system when you're falsifying search warrant affidavits, you're falsifying criminal court complaints. You know, you heard him talk about they had a drug dealer who would sell drugs, and then he would identify people that he sold to. Well, just having been a cop, I mean, this reeks of corruption, because what does that criminal court complaint look like? If you're allowing that drug dealer to keep the money, that means they're saying, I observed a hand-to-hand. I didn't apprehend the drug dealer, but I found the drugs on this buyer. They're lying about it. No, you were informed by the drug dealer. It's not that you couldn't apprehend him. You didn't want to. You let him keep the money. They're supposed to take the buy money and voucher all that. That's evidence. So they're lying on their criminal court affidavits. It has to be. There's no other way to make these arrests. That the effect of the integrity of the criminal justice system is one thing to beat somebody. It's one thing to take property from them. That doesn't really affect so much the integrity of when you stand in front of that judge in a courtroom. But now when you're falsifying search warrants and you're falsifying affidavits on arrests and prosecutions, the whole thing is in jeopardy. It's bigger than one guy doing this. This is the whole system.
Right. And it destroys the integrity of the good cops, and it makes it harder for the district attorney.
I am a former police officer. I represent police officers. I love police officers. But law and order works both ways. We can't have road cops ruining our lives and reputation of the good cops. So we have to root them out. And that's what these officers are doing. I represent a few different officers who've reported corruption, gone undercover, obtained information, got arrested, only to find out the department is now squashing it. I'm not talking about Mount Vernon. I have a NYPD case where he got widespread corruption, high ranking, and they suppressed it. It's just outrageous.
So, Joe, I mean, being a former cop, man, and now you're representing those who are whistleblowers, or is it a problem with the culture that those who speak out become the outcast?
It's a problem, but I got to tell you, it's more of, when you say police culture, you're talking about amongst cops. You don't rat on your
yeah.
That's not the big issue anymore. The big issue is that internal affairs to the average street cop is looked at not as a corruption fighting unit. It's management. It's a management tool to control the officers. And I've heard this so many times from former IAB officers who are saying that if you're connected and you know somebody, you'll be protected. If you're a problem where you speak up against bosses or you speak out about things that you don't like, they will send IAB after you. You're starting to get integrity tested and, all kinds of stuff where, I've heard where they even falsify stuff. I have a case now. It's an outrageous case. And it was in Rockville Center of an NYPD cop who was set up, and wait for it, here it is. There were 3 instances where complainants said a male white came into my backyard and was masturbating. Male white, my officer who was arrested for this and prosecuted is a male black officer. Where are we? In the antebellum Alabama? Like what's going on here? And he went to trial. And within 20 minutes, the jury came back not guilty. It was outrageous. What is happening here? So I love what I do. This is a second career for me. I get to pick and choose the cases I want to do. I love private practice. I only ran for district attorney because I just saw, Melinda Katz, when she was running, never stepped foot inside of a criminal courthouse, knows nothing about the law, never represented a client in court. I said, I got to run. But I'm very happy doing what I do. I love my practice. I love the cops. I love the people. People say, how do you go from being a cop to being a defense attorney? It's not that different. I help people as a cop. I counsel people. I work with people. I was on the boxing team. Ernie Morales and I were on the boxing team, the new commissioner. And that's where I know Ernie from. And I have such faith in him too. But we help people as cops. This public image that we're bad guys beating people up, and that's not who we are. We have to eradicate that. The people that are doing that, people just tell me, like, look, I see this on TV and that. I'm like, there are 800,000 police officers protecting and serving 328 million people, responding to 240 million 911 calls every year, plus hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of street encounters that aren't 911 calls. And you're showing me 5 cases a year, 10 cases. Those are good numbers. I'm not satisfied. We always want to do better, but don't make it like the whole police industry is corrupt, racist, and brutal. It's not.
I don't think.
Jess?
Yeah. Damon, I'm here.
You agree?
Yes.
Absolutely. There are cases, they're outrageous, and we have to address them. But to say that 800,000 police officers should be painted with that broad brush, it's outrageous.
Yeah, I agree with you because I have friends that retired from Mount Vernon PD, as well as there's someone now that talk to me. I'd never mention their name. They tell me, keep doing what you're doing. 4 square miles. There's no way that listed that long for unsolved murders. They sat on the paperwork. I don't care. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. I pressure. I like it. And it's a lot of good cops here. But overall, the bad ones are tainting it. They're making it bad.
Yeah.
Now, for the new rookies that's coming in, how are they being trained? Who are they being trained by? Are they going to?
The influence of these people too? Like I look at John Campo. I only spoke to him briefly on the phone. I've been in touch with his attorney. This guy should not be scapegoated. He's not the bad apple that we need to eradicate. He's a product of the bad apple being in the unit with this guy. And you heard on the last story that George Joseph did with David Patterson. Patterson was speaking up about this guy, speaking up and trying to get the rest of the unit. Hey, guys, we got to say something. This guy does it again. We got to do it. And nobody did anything. They're all afraid. They're afraid. You know why they're afraid? Look what happened to Bovell. Look what they're doing to Bovell. You know, they took him, sent him for a bogus fitness for duty exam, said he was unfit to carry a firearm, took his guns away, put him on unpaid leave, and said that he'll be terminated within 1 year if he doesn't unable to restore his full duty.
Yeah, they tried to do that to my wife too. But what the hell is going on with the PBA? I mean, like, you know, I mean, Colin Isaacs, I mean, Steve Isaacs should be ashamed of himself. And I'm saying it, and whoever's watching it, and he's my lawyer too in my union, and he's horrible, right? The things that happened to Mount Vernon cops, and that this union lawyer allows, it's almost criminal itself. You know, and to have good officers fall victim, and you talk to this guy and he has no clue. How are you a union lawyer? How are you a labor lawyer?
My opinion about that is you're too small to have a union of just your members, because everyone is a member, not just cops. Like in the NYPD, we have the PBA, all white shield cops. The SBA, the sergeants, the LBA, you can't have that, number one. So you have a constant conflict because it's usually a conflict between a boss and a cop. Who do you represent? How do you arbitrate?
And that's part of the biggest problem, because they're all in one union.
You guys need to go to a bigger union. And I've said this before, LIBA. I love this union. Kenneth Winder's a good friend of mine. He's having some troubles right now. That's because he's so damn effective. They're trying to get rid of him no matter what they have to do. He's a good friend of mine. LIBA is a great example of where Mount Vernon should go. You're united and insulated. Your frontline cops who are union delegates, they're working with the bosses. They have, you know, a conflict there. You know, so I think you need to go to a bigger union, even if it's an FOP or something.
Well, even if they allow sergeant above to go to CSEA or something else, you cannot have supervisors and patrol in the same union. I know it's not big enough for to have the detectives to be in their own detective union, but the detectives can stay with the patrol because basically it's a lateral move. It's not a promotion. Right. So, but if you right, you cannot have supervisors. And I'm saying this to Mount Vernon or anybody else. Supervisors cannot be in the same union because, first of all, your interests are different. There's not the same interests. And who do you think your union president is going to protect? The patrol cop when he's trying to go at a supervisor? Yeah. If y'all think that you're going to get the same treatment, then I could sell you a bridge called the Cuomo Bridge.
I mean, the Cuomo Bridge. I'm the delegate, the union representative or president. My supervisor is going to do my evaluation. So you're telling me that somebody's going to come, I have to keep butting heads with this guy and fighting with this guy and worry about retaliation? It's just too incestuous. You got to have some insulation and protection from the outside.
Exactly. Hey, Jess, man, you know, I had a light bulb just came on. Maybe maybe, and we'll talk about it next week in the meeting that we're going to have. Maybe we just need to get a bus and go see Cuomo.
Yeah, that's even better. You know, I definitely want to do one up in the county. I got to do one in White Plains. I think I need to do that first. That's what I was talking about. Meeting there, regardless if he lost that election or not, put pressure on him, and also take that bus ride up to Albany. I don't have a problem with that. More pressure, the better. My thing too, Mount Vernon PD, do they have a code where they don't tell? Because the street out here, they get mad at people in the street that don't want to snitch. They use that word. But seeing like Mount Vernon PD is using that same word inside the house over there, not to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think our police culture we talked about, you know, that's just, and the very nature of it. Listen, you're a cop, you're working together, you're putting your life in the hands of a fellow officer as he or she is putting their life in your hands. You spend so much time together. If you're riding together in a car, you're spending your 8 hours or whatever right next to each other. You know, going into difficult situations, it's very hard for someone to say, hey, my regular steady partner, I witnessed something, you know, that now I need to report. It's hard. It's hard. And I challenge all of our critics in whatever field you're in. I want to see a list of people you turned in, that you go to the bar, whatever, every once in a while after work, you go to each other's christenings and birthdays of your kids. Give me the list of those people you turned in. It's a very difficult thing because we're human beings. Not because we're cops, we're human beings. And that's how it is. But when we do have officers that do it because they're sick of it and they said enough's enough, I got to say something, that person should be embraced. I got to say, I'm a little disappointed with the mayor and the commissioner with this respect. I would think with everything that's going on in this country, someone like Officer Bovell will put his neck on the line, name names, pointed out people who are committing misconduct and criminal acts. He's doing it while he's still working with them. So subjecting himself, his personal safety is at risk. I haven't seen them come, and this would have been my approach. Thank you, officer. If he walked into my office and told me that, thank you so much. You're doing what we want all cops to do. And I would set an example by him. By taking care of him, I'd give him my personal cell phone number. You have a problem, you call me. Thank you. He's provided so much information. I talked about the recordings. They then came back and asked us to document in an individual MV5 every single instance he observed personally, what he observed. I thought that was a little bogus that they asked him that, because while he went to trial and there was a deposition in 2015 on this case the first case he filed, they deposed him about all this and he testified. And Officer Francis, who's their internal affairs officer, was sitting in the room while this was happening. So where was the breakdown there when Francis heard all this information and nothing was done about it? So I don't blame Scott because he wasn't there in 2015 in a position to do anything, but I'm bringing this to his attention, you know, and we're giving so much. You know, Bovell's the next one on the list for the sergeant's list. Everyone else before him has gotten promoted. He's the next one to be promoted. And now there's a rumor they're going to just kill the list.
I want to ask a question. First off, apologize for being late, been running around and everything like that. I'm just able to get in here. Then I was sitting here watching y'all play double dutch. I'm trying to look for that perfect time to jump in.
Yeah,
so allow me to jump in right now.
Camera and you're down here. So if I look at you, I'm like looking down.
Right. So I think you touched upon something that I was, you know, sometimes I make notes for editorial and it never really comes out. But one of the things I was saying about Officer Bovell, and you touched upon a little bit of this, with the current climate for criminal justice reform after the George Floyd, like, you know, it's like, everything's like, you got to look at through the lens of after George Floyd now. Everything is different now. But with this movement, I would think like groups like Black Lives Matter would embrace and celebrate an officer like Bovell for doing what we're asking officers to do.
Isn't that what we want? But not just Black Lives Matter. the mayor, the police commissioner. You know, he spent over 3 years in narcotics, never got a gold shield. So when I first met with the commissioner, I said, listen, Sergeant Kushner put a bullseye on my client's back when he called him a rat in front of everyone at roll call. I'd like you to help me remove that bullseye by giving him the gold shield that he already earned just from his work in narcotics, not to mention what he's done here. Give him that gold shield, pin it on him, send a message to the rest of the department. We are not tolerating any retaliation against Officer Bovell. Don't you agree with me? Calling a guy a rat at roll call in front of all the other officers, you're putting that bullseye on him.
That's a death. That's a death sentence.
And what does it say when you talk about police culture? What does it say to the other cops? Hell, I was going to complain about Antonini, but shit, no, I ain't doing that. They're going to call me a rat. They're going to, ostracize me. We can't have that. And Scott has the power to correct that. Give him his gold shield. Please don't kill the sergeant's list when he's the next one up to be promoted. And that's what the department needs to do. It's not so much police culture. We talked about it's being a human being. But when the officers, the frontline officers are looking at the department's response, that has so much of an impact on who's going to come forward next. When they see that he's celebrated, he's rewarded, he's commended at the ceremony where they made Jennifer Lackard commissioner and Ernie Morales commissioner. If I were the mayor, I would have had Bovell there and pinned that right on him, his gold shield. Congratulations, Officer Bovell. You are the epitome of what we want in this department. We're going to follow up on your work, and we're going to make this department the finest in the country. That would have been me. I don't understand the hesitance that they're not embracing him. He's back out on patrol, doing regular patrol. This hero cop who put his life on the line, and he's got other cops working with him that he fingered. What are we doing here? What's going on here?
Well, we got a major problem. On roll call, for him to call him a rat, he should have been reprimanded right there, because that language alone right there is showing the other officers this is how we do it in Mount Vernon PD. Exactly. And we out here busting our ass trying to change the way we respect the police. They want transparency. They're not even doing it in their own damn house. So for the rookie sat in there on roll call, heard that, whoever call him a rat, it's disturbing. So
it's fair game saying this is how we're going to treat them. Like, this is how y'all need to be treated.
And it's wrong.
This is a message to the next guy who wants to come in, or gal that wants to come in and report corruption. You too could be a rat. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Now, my thing is too, and I'm saying I'm going to start from the top and go in, because all this has been going on, even though it's a new administration, they knew about it before what was going on.
Correct.
This is not new to them. This is not new to them. So
deposition. Yes, you're right.
They should have been out here and condemn those officers that's been doing police procedure wrong, misconduct. They should have been out here condemning it. Now, the mayor has a big responsibility. It's her town. She's mayor. We voted for her. Some people voted for her. Some people didn't. I don't know. But she's the mayor now. My thing is, you go around the country and protest Black Lives Matter, you should be able to come to Mount Vernon, stand in front and condemn these cops that's doing misdeeds, that's doing wrong police work, that's doing illegal searches, that's threatening people, illegal drug sales, all that. I haven't seen it. We're asking for it.
Do they really want cops to come forward? Because I'm not getting that vibe from Mount Vernon. I'm not
investigations. All we hear is we investigating, and we haven't heard one outcome of any investigation that they have done. And you're not going to,
Jess, you hit it right on the nose. It's the complacency of the whole department. In that last story, Sergeant Fagan, he had no problem doing this interview because he felt what he was doing is fine. He's knowingly violating the department guideline. You do not do strip searches anywhere but in the precinct. And he's doing them. And he's justifying them, and he's speaking to a reporter about it. This is outrageous. This is what these guys think they run the show. And we need a heavy hand at top to say, no, This is not your department. This is our department, and this is how it's going to operate. You can't just have guys doing whatever they want. We're not going to follow that rule. That's been in effect a while. Nobody listens to that. Is that really how this department operates?
It's been like that. It's been like that. Hold them accountable. I wasn't speaking out, but more people speaking out. I don't know how many I can name. Damon, AJ, me, people writing, but I'm going to put pressure. Right now, I'm not their best friend. I never was, because I said I don't do this for likes or comments. I do this because I love Mount Vernon. I want to make it better. And it starts right there at City Hall. It starts at the police department. I have friends that retire, like I said, with good cops. There's someone that's a good cop still, but you got to shake the tree. I told the mayor, you got to shake that tree for the bad ones that's in there and get them the hell out of here. Antonini was from New York City. Why would they take a bad apple? It ain't the first bad apple they took.
Yep.
I have a list of names I'm going to release next week. Officers, pending charges. Why the hell they still on street duty? This is just the beginning. It's coming out. It's coming out.
You just brought this out in the last story about the search warrants and the search warrants, the strip searches. They put Antonini on desk duty. But anyone who's been in law enforcement, you know the difference between modified assignment and desk duty. Modified assignment, they take your gun and shield away, and you are in an absolute non-enforcement role in whatsoever. Desk duty is you had a post change. We'll put you inside till this blows over.
And desk duty you can do. And desk duty you can do overtime. Mount Vernon has had a history of. There's an officer I nicknamed $1 Million Man. He cost the city over $1 million in payouts to families.
$2
million. Okay, but while he was on Clinton Young, when the mayor put him on desk duty, and he was on desk duty for 2 years, and then Ernie Davis became mayor and put him back out on the street. For those 2 years, he made $45,000 and $55,000 in overtime. Those 2 years. So I'm like, how is that a punishment? And he don't have to go out on calls.
It's a reward.
Which is half of their job. Yeah. How is that a punishment?
It depends on what type of overtime it is. And I just want to bring it up because of my circumstances. I got arrested on duty in uniform for a fight I had with a detective. Unfortunately, I broke his jaw. I didn't do it on purpose. It was he assaulted me. I got arrested, suspended. I spent on desk duty, but I was an active cop and I had a lot of cases. So they tried to punish me by giving me Tuesday and Wednesday off and I was on desk duty at the medical division. But I had all these cases going to grand jury, doing hearings, doing trials, and I kept having to work Tuesday and Wednesday. Until the ICO, the Integrity Control Officer, came down to the courthouse. He said, I had to verify this. You're the number one overtime guy in the whole unit. So it depends on the overtime. If this guy is an active cop doing work.
That's not the case. That's not the case with this individual. I mean, LoHUD also did that's how I got the figures from LoHUD. LoHUD did a big story on this guy. And then once they put it back out in the street, the first thing he was involved in a shooting of an emotionally disturbed person. He was the first one on, and so anyway, and this Jesse, just so you know, he's the same guy that tore down the bubble and evicted the people at same time. Yeah. So he's still, and he's been promoted. He's been promoted.
I think he's retired now. I think they retired.
Is he?
I think so. I'm not. I'm 90% sure he's gone. It's done.
So I mean, he got his 3 years in at a lieutenant salary, and he retired out on a higher pension or whatever. But he was still there for a long time. We're talking about Clinton Davis, Clinton Young, Ernie Davis, Richard Thomas, and now he's retired. This guy's been around for a while.
I heard there was a criminal investigation into overtime abuse involving
LoHUD did a big story on that too.
Yeah, that stopped when Andre left. A lot of the investigations stopped when Mayor Wallace left.
And you won't hear about it again. Like I said about the investigation going on now, we won't hear about it. I've been asking, but we're definitely gonna put a little pressure. Damon, I agree with you. We have to take that trip. I'm going to White Plains, and we're going to put pressure there first. And it has to change. The culture over there, police department, has to change. Right now, I'm not their worst enemy, but I'm not friends with them because I address things that they don't want to address or talk about themselves, and it ain't going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Mount Vernon deserves better. You know, they deserve better.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Mount Vernon Police Department deserves better. The good cop. Can you imagine being a good, honest cop working in Mount Vernon Police Department with all this stuff in the news? I just remember every time something happened, like we had Justin Volpe with the broomstick up Avenue Louima's rectum. They throw it in your face, no matter where you are. It doesn't matter. That was Brooklyn. I was in Queens at the time. They throw it in your face, no matter what happens. They'll. So what about the good cops of Mount Vernon who are doing the job, answered the calling, helping the people? Why aren't we doing it for them? I mean, yes, the public, but what about the good cops? We want to be proud. As a police officer, I'm very proud of what I do as a police officer. I'm proud of my service. Why can't these cops be proud of working for the Mount Vernon Police Department? We have to address that. We got to do it. You're not going to attract good cops to Mount Vernon if this is the shadow that hovers over it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I just shared these stories for the overtime. It's in there now, and in the comment section. And also, it's funny, the officer I was talking about was also a major part of that investigation. When you pull it up, you'll see his picture and everything up there. He was. I mean, these cops are making more in overtime than they were in their salary. Whatever, like say they made 90,000 or 100,000, they would bring it home 210. You know what I'm saying? Like they were doubling just in overtime, doubling their salary.
Wow.
And two of the officers were the highest paid Mount Vernon employees, more than the mayor, more than anybody. they were the highest paid employees, two of those officers.
Because people don't care. See what it is? A lot of people go to work and they don't get involved. I'm involved now because, I'm retired. So, and I got tired of seeing too much going on, people not speaking up. I have friends working civil service here in Mount Vernon. Just keep doing what you're doing. They're not going to speak up because they know they're going to be retaliated against. And I believe them within the departments. It's going to happen. So I keep doing it. But the thing is, that has to change over there. As long as those bosses over in Mount Vernon PD let these guys run rough on these streets and do what they want to do, and we don't address it or make noise about it, they'll be quiet at City Hall. My thing is, where's City Council? They haven't said anything. They try to ramrod Andre Wallace from the mayorship. They stood together as one, tried to do that. It didn't work. Okay. Now you can't find them. They're not saying nothing. They should be standing in front of the seat on steps and speaking up about the sick conditions in Mount Vernon PD and other conditions. Look, they cut the ribbon 4 weeks ago down to Memorial Field. I ain't seen one damn truck down there. If we don't address it, let's talk about things going on. This is what's happening. People go home and they're accepting this. They dealing with it. They're accepting it. They're not saying nothing. And that has to change here. 4 square miles. There's no way.
Exactly. I asked, I text Delia Farquharson, Councilwoman Delia Farquharson, who was over the Public Safety Committee. Delia, if you're watching, I got the screenshot of the text. You said it didn't happen. And I asked her, what was she doing? What was she doing with the CCRB? The law was passed. It was passed January and February of 2019. And we know it was passed January, February 2019 because it was discussed in the Board of Estimates with former Mayor Richard Thomas and City Council President Lisa Copeland at the time. And so if it got to the Board of Estimates, it had to be a city law to discuss the funding of it. And it was a $30,000 funding they had, but they disagreed and wanted to make it $100,000. So they tabled it. So just because it was tabled doesn't mean you can't appoint. Just because it was tabled doesn't mean you make a new law, because nobody seems to be able to know. Nobody at this point, nobody knows where the legislation is. We talked to former clerk George Brown. He said it passed. So it's there. Somebody just have to do the work and find it, and then act on the law. So come on, Sister Farquharson, and City Council. It's time for y'all to act. Y'all already have a law, so y'all need to act on the law.
I want to add. I want to add kind of what some of y'all were saying, Jesse and Joe. Leadership starts from the top. Now I know we have a new administration. I know they had COVID. They was in a month or so. They had COVID. Everybody's dealing with a whole new world right now. I give you that. But I felt this way in the last 4 administrations, so I got to be consistent. You're a mayor. The police commissioner serves at the pleasure of the mayor. If the police commissioner, and then the police commissioner hires his deputies and makes those kind of changes. Now, if the police commissioner is not doing what you want him to do in your city, not just Mount Vernon, in your city, period, everywhere but the New Rochelle, I think the city manager does it. But anyway, the city manager has a bigger job than the mayor. But anyway, your mayor, so if your police commissioner, if your police department is not being policed the way you want, and you've gone to the police department and you've gone to your commissioner, the commissioner serves at the pleasure of the mayor. Then you go to your mayor. And unfortunately, and I'm gonna keep it real, because I get attacked by Sean Patterson Howard supporters, even when I'm not attacking her. I'm saying mayors across the board. So let's just be clear before all y'all come out the woodwork. If your mayor is not willing to make those changes and insist that her police commissioner go down the line, in that next election, you get yourself a new mayor who will do those things. If there's no leadership, the people down the bottom of the line, especially the further it goes down the line, there's no direction. The city hasn't had we had a police commissioner for 3 or 4 months under Richard Thomas. What's his name, Damon? The first one, Robert Kelly. Since Robert Kelly, we have not had a police commissioner, period.
Until Scott.
Until Scott here. So, I even with what I just said, it's going to take a minute. He's not going to be able to get rid of decades of dysfunction in a couple of months. But we have to stay on top of them. And if there's no leadership at the top, if you want change, it has to come from the leadership at the top.
Exactly.
And then heads got to roll, and everybody got to make everybody below them accountable, and heads roll, and people get pissed off. And you know what? If you don't like the new changes, they're hiring at UPS. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's what it is. You just got to keep that, because to yell at the officer that's on the street, he is following orders from whatever his higher up is, who's following orders from his higher up, who eventually the commissioner. And obviously, if the mayor's not getting involved, the mayor's pleased with the way her city is being policed. So him or her city is being policed. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I'm saying? It usually starts at the top. You have to get that top. And we have to realize our responsibility. City council legislates. And when they don't legislate the things that you need, the legislation, changing of the charter, legislation and criminal justice reform in just your municipality, because it's easy to get that done than it is to get done on a federal level. Mm-hmm. If they're not going to do those things that you said you need, especially in this after George Floyd thing, you know what I'm saying? Then they're all up for election, and you get yourself a new city council. That's the people. The people have to be involved. You have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. I keep saying this, and I want to harp on this. The people have the power, but they don't realize they have the power. They say things like, oh, that's just Mount Vernon. Oh, that's just the way it is. That's not the way it has to be. And you have the power to change it. You watching me, the Mount Vernon vote, you have the power to change it. What are you willing to do to change it?
And I got to tell you, because of what you guys have been doing, look what happened in the DA primary. An incumbent district attorney was just unseated in the primary, and I think in a large part because of his mishandling, and I'll use that as a nice word to him, mishandling of the way the Mount Vernon tapes story has been handled. The
That
people
meant a lot.
rose up
That
and spoke. And you're so right. They will do it again as a warning to every other elected official, mayor, city council. The people are now awakened. Criminal justice is the preeminent issue. What we do to our people, the freedoms that we're taking away from people, this is at front and center. The police powers of the government are front and center, and we're watching. And shame on any elected official who doesn't take that serious.
Exactly.
And especially, let me just say this one last thing. You know, people are speaking. You look at the 2018 midterm elections. That was more national. Let's take it locally. Yonkers is the third or fourth biggest city in the state, fourth largest.
Mhm.
And if they get their numbers right in the census, they'll overtake Rochester. But they only have less than 60% right now. That's another story. Yonkers, the city court, most court systems have looked like white men, like Joe. It's been white men, and that's what the courts usually look like. And the last two elections, they remade that court. Latino woman won last year, and we have a possibility of 2 African American women this year. That court will forever. That's the people speaking that they want. That's changes in their criminal justice reform. That's changes in their court starting to reflect what the community looks like. And the one lady that won, she wasn't the Democratic primary. She wasn't the Democratic nominee. She wasn't one of the top. None of those three. She beat the party. The two sitting white judges that were running for re-election. She beat both of them. So the people are speaking locally and nationally.
Right.
We need to do it more. We need to all do it in our cities. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to show you an example. There's change. Change. Damon said change is gonna come. Change is here. Change is coming. You know what I'm saying? So what do you want to do to affect that change? Because if we miss this moment, and I want to be clear, Damon said it before, with all the stuff that happened after George Floyd, if we go back to business as usual, and we don't make no changes, it's never gonna happen.
It's over. It's over.
It's never gonna. You had almost every major city and municipality throughout the country, and at least 20 to 30 other countries talking about George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. Like, yo, for real, like, you know what I'm saying? Put Black Lives Matter in their streets around the world. You know, like, if it doesn't change now, this topic, this one thing, it is never going to change. We're either going to be a movement that they are going to look back on, like we look at the civil rights, or we're going to be a moment in time, like after Eric Garner and after every other death, that we made some noise and we protested, we did we thing, and it went back to normal, and then somebody else got killed. You, the people listening to me right now, you're the ones that determine which one it's going to be, a movement or a moment.
You need to determine how you want to be governed. This is a social contract. We elect officials who then institute policies and enforce them. We don't like the way they're enforcing them. You're out. You're out, and we're putting someone else in. It's our job to do that. How do we want to be governed? And by sitting back and not exercising your vote, you're telling us how you want to be governed. You don't care.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Since Cuomo did turn the blind eye and act like he didn't know, I guess maybe the mayor and the city council, if they stood on the front of them steps and asked them, if that power right there asked them to come down, he might have had a different outlook. He might have said, yeah, we coming down. But if they're sitting down and not saying anything, none of them, he figured they not saying anything, everything is all right. Maybe
let me say something real quick, Damon.
Hey.
So while we've been getting on Cuomo, and since I've been on this thing about the people, let me put something out there for you. Cuomo ain't did shit for you every time you call. All the calls for corruption, Ernie Davis, Richard Thomas, Maureen Walker, Deborah Reynolds, on and on and on and on and on police department, all the stuff. He has never done nothing. But you know what has stayed consistent? He has consistently gotten your vote.
Exactly.
So real talk. While I still think we need to put pressure and make him do some stuff, if you're going to vote for me, and I'm gonna ignore all of your pleas, but you're still going to vote for me, why should I pay you any mind?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Real talk. Real talk.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up a quick irony. In 2015, when Cuomo enacted this executive order, 147, that executive order that gave the Attorney General the additional power to oversee these police cases, the very first executive order that came down after that was involved a Mount Vernon case. The woman's name was Raynette Turner, who was picked up for shoplifting, held in a cell over the weekend, and then somewhere between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., she died. Mm-hmm. And that was the first case after that executive order was initiated. So it's a Mount Vernon case.
And they dropped the ball, Joe. They dropped the ball because, first of all, in my opinion, it should have been the State Commission of Corrections, because police lockups fall under the State Commission of the Corrections. They have the guidelines. And if there's any, it should have never been the AG's office. They totally dropped the ball. Because
the AG represents the state. The AG has
exactly. But when there's a death in a lockup, especially in a jail, the State Commission of Corrections, they automatically do an independent investigation. The State Commission of Corrections gives the guidelines for police lockup, not the AG's office. And what the AG's office did when they did the investigation, they referred to the policy from the State Commission of Corrections. So why didn't you have the experts that created the policy do the investigation? See, and that's where they actually failed in doing that. Now, are the jailers trained? We used to train the jailers when Yonkers Police Department and they had their lockup. Their jailers had to come through our academy. We ain't seen not one jailer in Mount Vernon come through the academy.
Wow.
Right. So these are the issues that have to be, that the failure of proper oversight and investigation when it comes to lives in Mount Vernon from the state has been ongoing. So my thing is, how longer should the people of Mount Vernon be disrespected? How much longer do we have to lose lives and they actually just don't care? So we have to, the people have to wake up. The way the city is created, and I continue to go back to this report in 1992, how they purposely put poor people. And this is a report to then Republican county exec Andrew O'Rourke in 1992, how the state and the county social services purposely put poor people in Mount Vernon. Because at that time, they wanted to make White Plains whiter, Greenburgh and 119 whiter. So they got the people out of there and moved them to Mount Vernon, Peekskill, and different areas. But when the other cities started noticing, hey, we put all Yonkers, they said, oh my God, we put all the poor black people in the water, right in front of the water. That's prime property. We got to get rid of them. Send them to Mount Vernon. Peekskill, send them to Mount Vernon. A close friend of mine who's a supporter of the show, Sandy Bernarby, was the president of the New York State Social Workers. She even said it. Structural racism. They purposely move poor people to Mount Vernon. So what does that do? It puts a burden on the city. It puts a burden on the services, right? It creates crime and violence and put a burden on the police department. So these are the issues that the leadership and some of the pastors, because some of the pastors make money. Why? Because while they moving the poor people, they buy property and build low income homes. So now this is a problem of a decade of misuse and abuse. But I wanted to say this. I'll put $500 on the table if a politician will call Cuomo out in Mount Vernon for not doing his job. Matter of fact, I put $1,000 on the table.
I'll match it.
That's 2,000. Whoever's watching. If a politician from Mount Vernon, local, county, state, and Mount Vernon's in your district, call Cuomo out for not doing his job. Call Cuomo out for not helping you with the hospital. Because we all know the only one that can stop that hospital closing is Cuomo. And I'm telling you that as a fact, because another assembly person, Charles Barron, told me the only way they're going to stop the closing of the hospital, Cuomo has to say it's not going to close. And not one politician has put that responsibility on Cuomo yet. So you got $2,000 stand in front of City Hall, stand in front of the police department, and question Cuomo, why hasn't he done anything? Why hasn't he directed the AG, not behind closed doors, but in letter, formal direction, to take care of Mount Vernon and eradicate the corruption and abuse? $2,000 on the table.
Hashtag $2,000. Call Cuomo out.
Let's do it.
AJ, you got the article for tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously I do.
AJ, you got the article for tomorrow.
It was good for that. He gave me a lot of last minute work at the end of the last. That wasn't in my workload, but yeah, I guess it will be out tomorrow. But yeah, no doubt, though. But we have, you know what? It's sad. It's sad that you might get somebody to finally speak up just for the $2,000.
Just for the 2,000. Ain't that something? But then call Cuomo, I ain't really mean that. Andy, I ain't really mean that, Andy. Please don't get mad, Andy. I didn't mean that. I was getting that $2,000. And I'm not elected official. I'm not talking no district leader or no, I'm talking elected official.
Right, no district leaders, no library trustees, no school board trustees, City Hall. City Hall.
Let me see. Jesse, hold on, we got a question. Jesse Smiley says, what kind of training do you believe a police department should have at this moment in a time that will make a difference? You want to start off, Joseph?
Yeah, I'd love to, because, just having been a police officer and now the work that I do as an attorney, observing what's happening, no amount of training will ever overcome a department that allows one of their sergeants who's representing the department, when that sergeant gets before the roll call, the entire platoon, and calls a whistleblower a rat. No amount of training, no quality of training will ever be able to overcome that to get police officers to come forward and report corruption. It's just not going to happen. You're wasting your money. We need to change the culture in the police department. And it's not just cops turning in cops. It's the response from the department. Far too many cases that I have where we have whistleblowers where the department is suppressing it. The rule of thumb in the police department when I got on the job was never, ever, ever embarrass the police commissioner. You could do a lot of things and survive.
Exactly.
You go to the farm and say you have a drinking problem. Never, ever embarrass the police commissioner. You do that, you're done.
Exactly.
I can't help you. I had friends on the job and hooks and connections. They all told me, you embarrass the police commissioner, you're done. By the same virtue, you're embarrassing the mayor. So when corruption starts getting higher and wider, that's when the department tries to suppress it. And wait a minute, we don't want to embarrass the commissioner. We don't want to embarrass the mayor. No amount of training, no quality of training will ever be able to overcome the police culture at the top, who's afraid of it a lot of times, afraid to go where these complaints tell them to go. My client in the 109 precinct uncovered corruption that went to the highest levels of the department. It's shocking what they did. Shocking to suppress this. Only one lieutenant and one detective were arrested and convicted. There were captains and above involved in this thing who are still on the job today, unencumbered by anything he found. That's outrageous. Absolutely. And it starts at the top. You gotta hold people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, this question is to all three of you. So to quote my brother Damon K. Jones, if you make a cake and you actually forget to put the eggs in there, you can't just crack the eggs and put them on top.
Mm-hmm.
You have to throw that out and make your whole new cake. So in your all professional opinions, can we actually reform a department that has hundreds of years of systematic racism, or do we actually have to build a new department? I just want to hear your thoughts one at a time.
I'm happy to start with that because I'm the biggest opponent to defunding and disbanding the police. Everyone looks at the police department, and as you said, hundreds of years of cultural, systemic, whatever was going on. These are people. These are people. These are your neighbors. Police officers aren't prepared and manufactured in Wisconsin and airdropped here. We're from the community. We watch the news. We see what's going on. We have friends and family. I got arrested on the job because a friend of mine was handcuffed and smacked around by a detective. I went there to confront him. We're regular people. We have the same morals and ethics that everyone else has. You don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're good people. We just need the foundational support to allow us to be good people. When the department is calling people rats and they're suppressing corruption, they're teaching us don't do this. Don't report it. Don't correct it. It has to be done institutionalized, but the people are there. They're good people. That's a misnomer that these cops are so bad they can't be fixed. You got to throw them out. They're not. They want to be good. They take this job to protect and serve, to help. That's what we do. I think it can be saved. That's my opinion.
Same question, Jesse. Can you actually save and reform a police department with hundreds of years of systematic racism? Or like that example of the cake where you forgot the eggs. You can't just put the eggs on top. Crack them, put them on top. You actually have to make a new cake. Do we need to create a new model for law enforcement, or can we reform the one we have now?
It's a possibility that you can reform it, but I know I bake, and you got to start over. You got to build a new cake. My thing is the training is out of whack in Mount Vernon. How can you community trust you if you don't even walk the beat to know the community? It's a fact. You got a new commissioner. He said we're going to do this and do that, but they're a step slow. I'm in the streets. I'm talking to these people. The trainees come out and do their 3 weeks of walking. After that, you don't see them no more.
What about the training officer? I want to interrupt you. I want to follow up on what you just said. The cop in the George Floyd situation was the field training officer and had multiple complaints about him before that. So how can they get trained right at the field training officer?
Well, my problem with him, he came on the job like that already, okay?
But he was training those other three.
Yeah, so he had a problem. They need to check their backgrounds. Check out their Facebook pages before they become cops. When you're in high school, you do write things that you shouldn't write, and that's the way it is now. You got to really dig deep in their background and find out what you're getting. It's like you go to the supermarket, you buy something, you look on the ingredients to see what you're reading. You have to do that now because everything is not what it's supposed to be. Everything's not what it seems supposed to be. Mount Vernon, I think they have to start over. It's so bad. And this is the tip of the iceberg with the cops coming out, the stories coming out. I have so many people told me the stories. You'd be surprised. You have to do another 2-hour show for me to sit here and tell you everything what's going on. This is the tip of the iceberg. You have a lot of good cops here, But I'm saying you got enough over there that don't care. That's turning the blind eye. They're turning their head the other way. And they're trying to keep it like it used to be. I'm going to go back to unsolved homicides. There's no way all of those are unsolved because the paperwork got pushed to the side. Joe, I hear what you're saying, Joe, but that's just my opinion. I'm not law enforcement. I have friends who've been on it, and I did serve in the military, but I'm just saying, I think they got to start over. It's that bad here in Mount Vernon. That superiors are letting these guys do the hell what they want to do. And they know which ones are the bad apples. They know. And they're still here. That's duty. There's something that should be fired right now. Investigations, we don't hear about no more. And we won't hear about them until Cuomo steps in and then say, investigation now.
So Damon K. Jones, as this was your quote that you said at a rally, a convention, a thing we were at when you spoke, can you reform and just change the police department, the law enforcement, the structure of law enforcement now? Do you have to actually break it down and build a new one? In your opinion?
It's all in what the management wants to do. Look, I think if you are a police department, and this is not specific to Mount Vernon, right? Some police departments are more advanced than others. Some police departments, policies, procedures, and training are more up to date on state minimum standards, and some police departments, policies, procedures, training are on a national standard. So it depends on the department. But when we're talking about we're basically talking about behavior modification, right? Officers' behavior, how they behave. I was always told by my captain, Captain Bola, which now that I am in this whole field of talking about policies and procedures and training, she always said we have to always remain the professional. We are the well-trained professional, right? You are the law enforcement professional. That's why you make the money that you do, right? Because you're supposed to be well-trained. And being corrections is a little different. The attitudes are a little different, but I think the attitudes should be the same. You come to work, you do a job. And just like Joe was saying, you embarrass the commissioner, he's going to put a foot so deep in your ass, right? That's behavior modification. In Westchester, police almost look like the Golden Boys, like they really can't do anything wrong, and that's the way they're treated. That's the way they're treated. But I think management has to set the standard. Management has to set the goal. This is where we're going. I when I see the old commissioners, I've been there 30 years, so we went through different commissioners and different cultural changes and corrections. Things we do, things I did in the 90s, just walking up to an inmate and punching him in the face because he said he wasn't locking in. I can't do that today. Right? I can't do that today. Right? We have de-escalation where we get to the point where if an inmate says I'm not locking in, you got to call the sergeant. Sergeant come. You want to lock in? He says no. You got to call the captain. Captain come. You got to lock it in? He says no. Then the captain got to call the nurse, make sure this guy's not mentally messed up. And then after that, then you call on the response team to come lock him in. In the 90s, we ain't do that. You not locking in? Okay. Bong. Right? So the culture has changed. But how do they get the officers to change with the culture? They start suspending them. They start firing them. They start suspending the supervisors that's watching the officer violate policy. They start firing supervisors that are not doing their job all the way up. That's how you change the culture, right? That's how you make officers do what they're supposed to do. You start hitting them in the pocket. That's all we understand in law enforcement, right? Is when contract come around, are we going to get a 1%, 2%, or 3% raise, right? So if you don't, if you start holding officers accountable to their job, and this doesn't matter if it's corrections, if it's sheriffs, it doesn't matter because we all paramilitary. We all made out of the same structure, a paramilitary structure, right? And we all have policies, we all have procedures, and we all have training, right? And we have to hold, and management must hold their officers to their policies, to their procedures, and to their training. And if they violate those policies and procedures and training, there's a level of accountability. But when you're doing blatant illegal acts and you don't do anything, right? You are destroying the credibility of your department. And it's more so, and it's more on police because they have to go and testify. See, corrections, we ain't got to go testify, right? We ain't got to testify in court. So that part of the integrity part, we don't have to deal with, but police do. And then when you don't hold these accountable, and it gets to the level where you have articles like that that's coming out right now, every officer's integrity. See, this is what I don't understand. I don't understand when they stay silent. When they stay silent and they don't even think that their integrity is looked at. You could be a good cop. You could investigate and have everything, all your evidence and every I dotted and T crossed. But when you get on that stand and that jury is sitting there and they just heard these tapes yesterday, what do you think they're thinking about you?
Exactly.
That's where I want to go with the next question. Is for all three of you. So I've seen it written somewhere like, just throwing numbers out there. If you have 5 bad cops and 300 good cops, but the 300 good cops don't never say nothing about the 5 bad cops, then you got 305 bad cops. That's what I've seen that written. Now, I know in the military, basically, if one person mess up, talking about behavior modification, everybody pay a penalty. They punish everybody. You think if they did that in law enforcement, we have some changes, some criminal justice reform?
No, I think that's dangerous too, just for the very reasons that Damon mentioned. As police officers, you testify in court, and all of that material is now, because there's no more 58, all of that is out there in the public view, and it's essentially required to be turned over now to the defense attorneys. So if you're disciplining a police officer for any reason, that's going to be turned over. So if you're saying that we're now going to start disciplining good cops, suspending them, taking time away from them because of the actions of the group, I just think we're going down the wrong path. That I wouldn't agree with that.
Well, what about who need to intervene?
I really do think, and I can't stress this enough, cops are good people. Cops are good people. And if the system is allowing them and facilitating them to do that and come forward and not be stigmatized, not be called a rat, not be ostracized, think about this. If you're in a bigger department, you want to get into a specialized unit like the violent crimes unit. Do you think that boss who runs that unit is going to want to welcome someone in who's a whistleblower? Because what's going to happen if he finds something? It's going to embarrass that boss. That's the culture. It's not the cops so much. It's the structure that cops operate in. And cops know that. So they're afraid to do that. Not so much, to report it. They don't like it. Cops don't like people taking money. Cops don't like, people being abusive and brutality. But to report somebody and it's hard because you're labeling yourself and you're putting yourself on a career track that may have been rising to now, you're gone as far as you're going to go. It's got to happen institutionally with the department.
Yeah.
The leadership. People are good. They want to be good. You got to give them the opportunity to be good.
See, that goes back to my question. Can you reform the system, or do you have to build a whole system?
No, the system can be reformed. It can, but you have to you have to have the mindset, right? You got to have the mindset of reform. The leadership from sergeant all the way up to the commissioner must have the reform mindset. And those that don't have the reform mindset, either you're going to learn the hard way or you're going to put your paperwork in quick, right? I've seen it, right? I've seen with a new commissioner ran out wardens and captains and all that because they knew he wasn't going to tolerate the nonsense. But it starts at the head. And as commissioner, your loyalty is policy, procedure, training, and the budget. And the budget. Anything else? My commissioner told us he don't give a damn about morale. We get paid every 2 weeks. The county pay you well to be happy, right? My job is to make sure you do your job and you do it well, right? So that's why I have the attitude that I have, the way I was managed in corrections, and it has at this time it has to be the same way. It has to be the same way because people are dying. People are dying. You got to understand, people are dying. And just like we said on the last show, if Antonini wasn't taken in, sooner or later he would have killed somebody. The way it was going, because when you look at all these cases, all around the country, you see it was a pattern with that officer. It was a pattern, and management did not do their job to correct that pattern. And then now he done took a life. Now he done took a life. We should not wait till we get to that point by smacking him on the head and turning the other way and not deal with it because he's in some certain circle or down with this person or down with that person.
Exactly. To his point, Damon makes a great point. Look at this last story where Campo is saying Antonini was cocking back and hitting this old man. That could have ended tragically. Dan, I was just filling in, talking about that last story with the Italian guy.
Exactly.
Cocking back. That could have ended tragically. And then what would we be doing? We'd be doing exactly what Damon is saying. Look at the history. Look at the record. Look at what's been going on with this guy. Why hasn't anyone intervened? That's what we're talking about. That's not cops. That's institutionally. Institutionally, what are we doing? We're not making our department the finest department. We're not doing the best we can for the people who pay us to do this.
Right. Jesse Smiley says pay is the carrot, but if you don't have good salaries and benefits, anything is possible. That's why so many leave. Now, Mount Vernon might not make as much as other cities but they make good money. I'm married to one. They make good money, right? They make enough. I mean, they might not make as much as White Plains, or they might not make as much as County PD or something like that. But that's something you have to go back and you have to discuss to your PBA. Why is that? And that's also because the city.
That's your city's budget.
The city don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. So they can't pay the same rate as a Greenberg or White Plains or Scarsdale because they're not bringing in the same money. That's a failure of the elected officials to have proper economic development in the city, and instead of building low income, bring in some businesses that will help with that will help the homeowners with their tax base. Yeah. So you could bring more taxes in, and then you could pay your police officers more money. And I've always said this. I give Mount Vernon the props because a cop with 2 years on the job has more experience than a cop. We're going to take Yonkers out of it, right? Because that's the third largest city in the state. But the rest of the cities in Westchester, A cop with 2 years on the job in Mount Vernon has more experience than these other cops. They have more experience. And this is what the union president needs to be talking about. He needs to be talking about that to get actually get some more money. But you can't get more money, right? And Joe was talking about defunding the police. Bad cops defund the department itself because the city has to pay out all these lawsuits. Look at New York City, almost $700,000 in lawsuits and judgments. That could have been a cop's raise. Doesn't mean a cop's raise. You got one officer in Mount Vernon, $3 million, close to over $2 million. See, and if the elected officials say, look, here's your raise in our judgments and payouts. Y'all correct that. See, that's when cops will correct themselves. They said, look, your raise is based on the court cases we got to settle because your fellow cops keep fucking up. I'd have said that if I was mayor.
That's a nice incentive bonus right there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Your raise is based on, if we don't have no lawsuits, oh man, we could give y'all 4.5, 5%. But we got lawsuits, forget about it. Come back to us next year.
Yeah.
And incentives is always a beautiful thing. That works in all walks of life. When the Bulls, when they had Jordan and all of them, and nobody wanted to play with Rodman because they thought he was out of control, they gave him an incentive-based contract. I think all athletes need to get this. He got a very bare minimum contract, but if he got the record in rebounds or something, he got a couple million. If he did this, if he went through the playoffs without getting suspended, he got this. He hit every bench that he could hit for every incentive and had a record-setting year. If you gave other people that kind of incentive, like athletes or whoever, like that was incredible. But then they never did it again. Nobody's ever had a contract like that again since then.
Right, but see, that's the failure of elected officials to think outside the box.
Right.
In dealing with the collective bargaining and dealing with their contracts. That's the failure. I can think both ways, from the from the officer side and from the in negotiations, right? So I mean, everybody can be happy, right? You could have accountability of your officers. You could have well-trained officers, but it has to be a give and take. One side just can't take. I'm not for defunding. I'm not for defunding at all. I'm for changing the culture, right? I don't think no black community in America needs to talk about defunding. We can't even police ourselves right now, right? Until we're able to police ourselves like other ethnic groups and have a code of conduct in our community like other ethnic groups do. Maybe we can start talking about that. But right now, that's not a conversation we should have. We should have, how do we change the culture in policing? How do we make sure that it starts off with integrity and accountability and professionalism? That's the question. And these elected officials need to start thinking out of the box. They need to start thinking out of the box how to do it. But they all have to have a plan by April 2021. So let's see what they have.
Right.
And another thing, Jesse, they got to have a public hearing. According to the executive order of Governor Cuomo on his police reform, each city must have 2 public hearings.
So let me ask you a question. So this conversation, though I missed the beginning of the show, I believe started with the lack of Governor Cuomo's presence in, especially the city of Mount Vernon. Other cities too, but especially in the city of Mount Vernon. So now there's this thing that Damon's talking about that they all got to have in by the 21st of April or whatever, or things happen. I mean, do you have faith that he's failed us in so many other ways? Do you have faith that he's going to do anything?
No.
A city like Mount Vernon, it's a city like Mount Vernon. So we're talking about Mount Vernon. Doesn't have theirs in. Do you think that he's going to do anything?
Well, he doesn't have to have that report. They do.
They have to hand it in to him.
Right.
That's what he just said. What if they don't get it?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Do you have any faith that he's going to do anything when it's like it's Mount Vernon?
We got to wait and see.
Right.
Because it did say that they will withhold state funds from the police department, you know, and small cities like Mount Vernon and towns and villages, they can't afford that.
That's right.
Right? They can't afford that. And I think coming down the line, a lot of counties and states are going to start withholding funding, you know, if they don't apply to some type of reform. And some cities are not going to be able to afford, you know, not to do these type of reforms that's going to come down, you know. And you know, for full disclosure, I'm on the county's reform. And these are common sense, you know. I mean, what's probably going to come out in majority are common sense reforms, right? And you know, they're just common sense. But you wouldn't have these reforms if management will do their damn jobs, right? Because the policy, look, everybody say, right, we follow state minimum standards, right? Right. So that's what, you know, corrections say that too. Oh, we're following state minimum standards. But so if you're following the minimum standards and the minimum guidelines, right, there is accountability in those minimum standards and the minimum guidelines. It might not be, you know, as much as somebody wants, but at least it's there. Right. But the problem is nobody's following it.
Right.
Right. If they say you don't hit a guy when he's cuffed, once the cuff goes on, all the other nonsense stops. Because the cuffs are on this guy, so everything stopped. But then they just keep on doing the nonsense. Then they get mad, right? When the people get mad, well, then you're not holding them accountable. You're not holding them accountable because we keep seeing different cops in your police department doing the same thing. So now it's the norm. And let me tell you, some officers, no matter what department, some officers have no clue what the policy is because they're listening to the stupid next one. They don't read the policy, right? They listen to what their fellow officers say the policy is. And they never read the damn policy.
Yeah.
Because other officers say, no, this is what you do. This is what you do.
I think the perfect example is Sean Fagan, the sergeant, who, you know, very willingly interviewed, he was interviewed by George Joseph about something he's in clear violation of. Strip searches out in the field are illegal. We don't allow it according to our department policy. That's a perfect example. Here's the boss saying, oh yeah, I'll talk to you. You'll talk to me. You're committing these acts. You know, it's just shocking. But you're right.
And that just goes back to, it must be accountability for management, accountability to the rank and file. You know, when Obama's 21st century policing model, the first step, like everybody skips this step, right? Integrity and accountability. That's number one. But everybody goes down and then they want to, you know, do what's the name of that dance that everybody was doing? And they was calling it 21st century policing. Whatever. Do the running man. Like, how did the hell did all these police departments doing the running man, right, correlate with 21st century policing? Like they turned it into a joke.
Yeah.
They turned it when people are dying, people are getting hurt. Good cops who come out are getting fired. You know, thank God, my sister Carrie all up in Buffalo that the AG is actually looking at her case to try to get her a pension. They took her pension because she stopped the officer from choking a man that was in handcuffs. And she lost her job.
How long that's been? That's been a minute.
It's been about
for years.
Yeah, it's been for years. Years. And thank God she's up there giving them hell. God bless you, Carrie all. Because, you know, you could tell when I talked to her and I met her, you could tell she'd been through hell, man. You know, she'd been through a war just trying to get what she deserved, and she did the right thing. But where the hell was their PBA? Where was their PBA?
The people. This is what we want from our police officers. We want
the people need to stand behind them. Yeah.
Yes. You know, like just bringing it back, as AJ mentioned, what this was all about, why we're doing this. Accountability, the governor, why aren't you taking action? There's another action we can take. I brought it up. County Law 701, Scarpino, in my opinion, as another attorney and someone who ran for district attorney, ethically, the way he handled this was horrendous. He's an embarrassment, in my opinion. I think because he just bamboozled this whole case, that he, under County Law 701, should appeal to the chief administrative judge and say, I want to recuse myself from this investigation and have the appointment of a special district attorney come in to handle the Mount Vernon police corruption allegations. That can happen overnight. And if we're talking about mobilizing people, Jesse,
Yeah.
we need to get on his front doorstep and demand that he do this now. And it is the right thing to do because of how he screwed this up. We went to their office, I think it was September, October of 2018. And up until Commissioner Scott, when we had to give him the recordings, up until him putting them out to be transcribed, that man didn't even have transcripts of those recordings. His whole team, his whole public integrity team should have had those transcripts, should have had those recordings, should have been looking up cases, because there's evidence of where this was happening and who was involved. How could George Joseph find these victims and they can't with all their resources?
Exactly.
He's so screwed this up. We should demand right now he recuse himself, and under County Law 701, the appointment of a special district attorney, and normally what they'll do is go to an adjoining county, have Bronx County come in, whoever, have someone else come in to take action and work together with Commissioner Scott, who is investigating this. And I know Ernie Morales, First Deputy Commissioner, he's investigating this. We're providing them information. We're working with them. But they can't do anything without a prosecutor's office.
Exactly.
They can't write subpoenas. They can't do grand jury subpoenas. They need a prosecutor. And we've already seen clearly this man does not want to prosecute. He can't. He'd be choking his own words.
So, Joe, we could talk about that offline. We're having a group meeting next week. I could bring it up and see what the group says, and we could bring that up, and maybe before this month is out, we'll make that happen. Put it together for us. The steps and what the talking points and what the law is, and we could see if we could get some community organizations behind, and we could. The administrative judge, isn't that Kathy Davidson? No, who's the administrative judge?
I'm not sure. And
AJ.
Westchester.
But
I would bet you that
I'm trying to think.
Isn't she's administrative something, right?
I'm sure the administrative judge knows about this. Any competent administrative judge would know what's going on and is probably equally outraged. So all it would take is Scarpino to say, by virtue of, what has transpired, I am recusing myself as prosecutor under County Law 701. I'm asking for the appointment of a special district attorney to oversee this investigation. Done. Chief judge signs it, orders it, it's over.
Sounds like I did to me.
And that's exactly what happened in this.
Yeah, it's Kathy Davidson. It's Kathy Davidson. I thought, she's an administrative judge.
I thought so. I just wasn't sure. And it was like, I'm not sure.
I know she was administrative something.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure it was the actual administrative judge. I know she was over, but I didn't know. Maybe it was a different title. But yes, and that we could do that. I think we could work on that, Joe. We'll talk about it. We got a meeting next week with Jesse, and we'll talk. We'll talk about that. I'll get back to you, and we'll work on that. And I think Once
That's something we could do right here.
Exactly.
Governor, he's already out there about Mount Vernon. Let's make it happen.
Exactly. I think that would be a good thing.
We need it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not anti-cop. I'm anti-bad cop, dirty cop. I lived here.
Exactly.
Here. I just want better for Mount Vernon, and the citizens deserve better. And also for the good cops. They want it. You know, some of them scared to speak out, like you said.
Exactly.
They need it. They trust me. They're looking for help too.
Exactly.
They want this. Believe it or not, yeah. They want this. They want the purging, and I am so proud of my service. I love being a cop. It was the greatest job I ever had in my life. I love what I do now, but for these cops that have to live with all this stuff, they're out on patrol and they're hearing this story, and Antonini's screwing it up for everyone. And he's not alone. There's other bad actors in there.
Yes.
We're doing this for them. They want that too. They want to walk out there proudly with their shield and you know, amongst the people. That's what cops want to do. I don't think you'll have any resistance from them.
All right. I got a question for you. IAB, trying to get that moved from the police department. I think it should be in City Hall. Yeah. I did Scott about it. It shouldn't be there. You know, you got investigations going on, and cops should not be walking by IAB's office right there, and they speaking and jollying around, having fun and drinking coffee together. I think that should be separated. That's another issue.
That's something I talked to Officer Bovell with. We talked about an inspector general that would make even reporting so much easier because that person is outside the department.
Yeah, you know, Mount Vernon has one, but that's appointed by the mayor. So you know what that's going to go, right? So that's. I mean, if they enact the CCRB that was passed, and they put decent people in it, which is independent, right? It's an independent CCRB, with a means of subpoena power, right? And I think that will be a step forward, and it has to be under the national standards of the National Association of Civilian Oversight and Law Enforcement. So I mean, you know, there are national standards for civilian oversight, and I think if they do that, it will be a step forward. But you still have to change the culture. You still have to you still have to hold officers accountable. You still have to have that behavior modification, you know, to move forward, and you have to have and City Hall must support these changes. You know, it can't be people running over to City Hall. Look, the commissioner's doing this, and the commissioner's too hard, and the commissioner's. They can't play those games. You know, I mean, that's been the history, you know, of Mount Vernon. You know, and you know, not that, you know, I'm not speaking on this mayor, but past mayors, you know, thought they knew more about policing than the police. So when you're dealing with that, you know, what can you do, right? So I think they have a beautiful opportunity. The community is behind it, you know, and we know part of the problem is the DA's office. You know, I mean, that's 70% of the problem there. You know, so I think, you know, we can move forward with speaking with reaching out to the administrative judge and appealing to the administrative judge. You know, that's this guy with this case, he has to recluse himself, and we need someone and can bring it over to another county. You know, until the new DA come in. You know, at least start something right there. Start something. You know, and I think AJ, you thinking? AJ?
Yeah, I'm looking. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking. We just hit the 2 hour mark.
Oh,
I don't know how much
time, man.
want to go. Yeah. So I want to give everybody last words. Y'all were going. I didn't want to interrupt y'all. I wanted to give last words.
Well, let me go first, because I really love if you don't mind. Today being 9/11, I was an active member of the police department. I responded to Ground Zero. we lost so many people, not just from 9/11, the days, weeks, months, years after. About 2 months ago, a good friend of mine who came on the job together with me, worked together, he passed away on 9/11 related cancer. The people still suffering today. And it bothers me when I hear, what the governor and the mayor attacking the president for their failure to prepare for what's happening here. I don't want to make this political whatsoever. We got to protect our people. That's the obligation of our elected officials, to protect us. The number one function of any government is to protect its people, whether it's protective equipment, policing, police reform, whatever it is. We have to focus on that. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact today is 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
everyone that we lost, but we're doing this for the benefit of the people. And that's why I'm so happy to support you guys for what you do.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it, brother. Jesse?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Nice meeting you. My friends. Yes, today's 9/11, and condolences to all the families that lost loved ones. But I'm going to just say Mount Vernon has to stand together. Our elected officials have to stand front and center now more than ever. And we have to change the culture in the police department. I'm not going to give up. I'm never going to stop. It's more than one issue with the police department in Mount Vernon, and I think everybody knows it, that you'll be hearing now the next week or two that I'm becoming a little stronger. I'm not doing this for friends or likes or comments. It's just somebody has to step up. My brothers, AJ and Damon, been there, helping me out. I'm not sure about, stopping. AJ been right there, my brother. They hear you. They hear you. Keep going. Damon's been a great person there. Got my back to another brother that's been there for me too. Stay strong. We encourage you. Got your back. I have guys that have reached out to me in the last 2 weeks. I'm very surprised. That's standing with me, and they're ready to walk, do what we have to do. But the leadership of Mount Vernon has to stand up, from the mayor, city council, on down. And I'm here for Mount Vernon. Thank y'all, brothers, and I'll talk to y'all about that. And Joe, definitely want to do that for Mount Vernon.
Right.
Damon?
My prayers go out to all the families that lost loved ones to 9/11 and 9/11 related illnesses. Likewise, a coworker that worked with me died because he volunteered down there, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So, it affects everyone. It affects everyone. And my prayers go out to him, his family, also, CO Delpha. And as far as what we need to do, and we talked about it earlier, if we don't get it right now, right? If we don't get it right, while the awareness of what's going on and the awareness, everybody has their different conversations and their different agendas, but more than all is how do we build that bridge between community and the police department and have a working relationship. That at the end of the day, I believe that's the goal, right? Yeah. And that's the goal that needs to happen. But if we don't get it right now, I don't think in my lifetime it will ever happen again. I've been in law enforcement 30 years. I remember when I joined the National Black Police Association in 1992. I thought we was right around the corner, man. I thought freedom was around the corner, right? And 28 years later, I'm still talking about the same things those brothers that came in law enforcement in the 70s and in the 60s, are talking about. We're still talking about the same issues. Nothing has changed, right? So I think we have an opportunity to get this right. Brother Bovell, I support you. I stand with you. And I'm only a phone call away. Jesse's only a phone call away. Black Law Enforcement of America, Grand Council of Guardians, we all of us are only a phone call away. And we're not going to tolerate, and I make it clear, we're not going to tolerate no bullshit. And y'all think y'all going to harass and treat Brother Bovell any other way? Because I will call you out. I will stand with him. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. So don't get it twisted, because if we have to call y'all out, we will. We'll stand with Joe and Bo. We will not have a problem with that. So allow the man to go to work and allow the man to do his job. And all that other side stuff, all that other bitch shit y'all do, no, absolutely not. We're not tolerating that, because he did the right thing. He did something that y'all were too scared to do.
That's right.
Amen.
He did what y'all was too scared to do. So we're not having that, man. So I just want to make that clear. And we're not attacking. If you're a good one, then just be a good one, right? If you're a good one, you just be a good officer. It ain't hard being a good officer.
Nope.
Part of being a good officer is not allowing the bad ones to control you.
Right.
That's part of being a good officer. And I tell you, and they know at my job, I'm telling. I got 30 years. I ain't giving up my picture. I'm taking bye. I'm telling. That should be on my name tag. CEO, I'm telling.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. It's not happening. It's not happening, and it's not happening. Just follow policy, procedures, and training, and do your job. That's all the people. All that extra stuff it's crazy. It's uncalled for. And the only thing you're doing is destroying your credibility and accountability and your reputation. Mount Vernon already has a cloud over its head.
That's right.
That people shake their head.
Like that character from the Peanuts.
You go into a restaurant. Yeah, I like nice restaurants. And sometimes I'm the only black guy there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting at the bar and something come on about Mount Vernon. All the white people look at me. I ain't even, I'm like, how y'all know I'm from Mount Vernon?
Oh my God.
Because it's the reputation, man. We got to break the cycle. The cycle has to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
The cycle has to be broken. And it's only us. We can't blame the white man. It's only us.
That's right.
We the one running the city for the last 4 decades.
That's right.
We can't blame the white man for what's going on. We got to blame ourselves. And we got to do better. And I say we with the W-E, we all got to do better. So let's do better. And let's make sure we protect Bovell.
Definitely.
Amen. Thank you.
That's it. We out of here. You closing this out, AJ?
Absolutely. I echo. Yeah. I'm closing this out. I echo what everybody else said. Mm-hmm. And I thank our guests for coming on.
Yes.
I wanna, we see situations like 9/11. I want to end with this. And those times of great issues like 9/11, we come together as a state, as a city, as a community, like nobody's business. You know what I'm saying? When it's really deep like that, that's how we need to come together for this election. That's how we shouldn't, and I just want to put out there, we shouldn't wait. We shouldn't need a 9/11 or coronavirus or a pandemic or something like that. That the way we come together during those times, why can't we come together just on a regular like that?
That's right.
That alone would pick up the quality of your community by that right there. You know what I'm saying? That one act, that one thing. So let's remember that while we remember those who gave their lives selflessly at 9/11. For those who, there's just so many people, there's so many stories, just keep them in mind today and let their sacrifices not be in vain. That's what I want to end with. This is another special COVID-19 edition of Black Westchester Magazine's People Before Politics radio show. You could be doing anything else, decide to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. And until next week, until next time, peace.
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 Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, I got to end it. My bad. I thought I forgot. I forgot.
Yes, that's what I was waiting for.
I'm in there like, okay, AJ, turn it off. All right, there we go.
Right. And I didn't want to be like, okay, David, hit the switch. I was trying to.
Wait a minute.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not